Everyone expects stage 18 to be the day the Tour explodes. But what if UAE has already made the one decision that could win the Tour before the racing even begins? Pogačar holds yellow. Remco Evenepoel is running out of mountains to change that. Yates may not be healthy enough to protect anyone. Isaac del Toro is clinging to a podium spot that half the peloton wants to rip away. And looming over every choice made today, Alpe d'Huez on stage 20. The Alpine trilogy starts now, and the team doing the least might be gaining the most. In the flats of Voiron, Alpecin Premier Tech executed a masterclass in lead-out precision. Mathieu van der Poel delivered his teammate Jasper Philipsen to the line with absolute perfection, securing the stage victory in a chaotic bunch sprint. While the major general classification contenders safely navigated the run-in, this sprint completely reshaped the points classification. Mads Pedersen's grip on the green jersey suddenly looks vulnerable, with his lead squeezed down to just 7 points. It was a high-speed interlude that proved the Tour is still active on multiple fronts, even as the battle for the yellow jersey remains momentarily poised. But that's only part of the story. The frantic battle for the green jersey is about to be completely overshadowed by the road ahead, as the flat roads disappear and the race climbs directly into the high mountains, where a far more brutal challenge awaits every team. This massive gap completely alters how UAE Team Emirates XRG approaches the high peaks. They are not defending in panic. Instead, they hold the ultimate tactical advantage, forcing their rivals to make the first move. But what if the strongest move on these steep slopes is doing nothing at all? Riding for Red Bull BORA Hansgrohe remains the primary threat in second overall. His convincing victory in the stage 16 time trial proved he has the form to claw back time, but a 5-minute deficit in the general classification requires massive long-range attacks. This reality transforms the climb to UAE Merlet into a psychological pressure test. It is the opening salvo of a brutal Alpine trilogy where the leader can afford to wait, while the challengers are running out of road. He does not need reckless ambition on the steep roads to UAE Merlet. While his rivals must burn precious energy to claw back seconds, the yellow jersey can simply follow wheels. For UAE Team Emirates XRG, the primary advantage is more than the 5 minutes on the clock. It is the power of choice. They dictate the rhythm of the peloton, forcing other teams to commit resources while they ride defensively. This strategy offers a massive physiological advantage. Sports scientists note that high-intensity efforts above threshold level deplete muscle glycogen rapidly, requiring up to 48 hours of recovery. Stage 18 is not an isolated mountain day. It is the first chapter of a brutal Alpine trilogy. By riding conservatively here, UAE Team Emirates XRG is banking critical physical reserves for the back-to-back mountain finishes on stages 19 and 20. The real value of this stage is not found in a prestigious podium photo, but in what can be saved for the final showdown. Every watt preserved on the climb to UAE Merlet is a watt available when the race reaches the steeper slopes ahead. By refusing to chase glory today, the team ensures they have the fresh legs required to defend the yellow jersey when the true mountains begin. This defensive approach is more than a physical shield. It is a psychological weapon. Inside the peloton, a leader who refuses to attack creates an agonizing trap for everyone else. When UAE Team Emirates XRG rides with calculated passivity, they shift the burden of panic entirely onto their rivals. Power in a Grand Tour is often defined by non-reaction. By deciding exactly when to respond rather than chasing every speculative acceleration, the yellow jersey forces other teams to make a terrible choice. Do they expend their own limited mountain helpers to chase down early moves, or do they let the breakaway go and risk losing control of the race? This is where UAE gains another advantage. Their deliberate calm acts as a physical filter. When rival squads are forced to take the front and organize a chase, they burn the precise muscular reserves required for the final climbs. A team that refuses to be baited is a team that dictates the terms of the entire race. For Remco Evenepoel, this calm is suffocating. He knows that every second his team spends chasing minor threats is energy he cannot use to break Tadej Pogačar on the steep ramps of UAE Merlet. The power of choice belongs entirely to the yellow jersey. By doing nothing, UAE Team Emirates XRG forces their opponents to defeat themselves, one wasted watt at a time. His dominant performance in the Stage 16 individual time trial clawed back 28 seconds, proving his form is elite and fueling his belief that the yellow jersey is still within reach. Yet that time trial victory was an individual effort. The road ahead requires a completely different type of battle. If the young Belgian wants to disrupt the status quo, he must attack in the high mountains. Waiting for the final climbs plays directly into the hands of UAE Team Emirates XRG, whose defensive fortress only grows stronger with each passing kilometre. But executing a long-range raid has suddenly become much more difficult. Almost nobody is talking about the devastating blow Red Bull BORA Hansgrohe suffered during that same Stage 16 time trial. A heavy crash forced Florian Lipowitz to abandon the race, stripping Remco Evenepoel of one of his most reliable mountain domestiques. Without Lipowitz to set a blistering pace or neutralize early moves, the burden of controlling the race shifts entirely. The climbing support has worn thin, leaving the challenger isolated against a formidable and cohesive Emirati squad. Is Remco Evenepoel running out of opportunities? Every kilometre he spends waiting, every mountain pass negotiated at a steady, defensive tempo makes the equation simpler for the yellow jersey. The steep slopes of this Alpine trilogy demand immediate, decisive action. For the second-place rider, conservative riding is a slow defeat. He must force the race open even if he has to do it alone, because once the road flattens out, the opportunity is gone forever. But while the spotlight remains on the yellow jersey, a silent crisis is unfolding inside the team bus. Will Adam Yates recover in time? As a cornerstone of the team's mountain engine, his compromised physical condition introduces an unpredictable tactical variable. In previous Grand Tours, the team proved they will not risk rider health, famously pulling Yates from the Giro d'Italia after a heavy crash. Yates is the ultimate insurance policy. He sets the punishing tempo that neutralizes long-range threats, shields Tadej Pogačar from the wind, and acts as a secondary option in the general classification. Without him operating at peak strength, the defensive burden shifts. Other climbers like young Isaac Del Toro must step forward and absorb those grueling mountain miles much earlier than planned. This reality makes a conservative strategy on Stage 18 an absolute necessity rather than a mere preference. If the team burns their remaining domestic resources trying to control the early slopes of Orsières Merlet, they risk arriving at the back-to-back finishes on Alpe d'Huez completely exposed. Yates being limited means every single pedal stroke must be calculated. UAE Team Emirates XRG cannot afford to waste a single drop of energy because their mountain shield has never been more fragile. While the spotlight remains locked on the battle for the top spot, the 22-year-old Mexican climber finds himself defending a fragile podium position in a highly volatile group. The contenders behind him are stacked close. Young French prodigy Paul Seychaz of Decathlon CMA CGM sits in fourth, with Movistar's Juan Ayuso and Martí Schelmosu of Team Jumbo-Visma well within striking distance. One strong day in the high mountains could completely reshuffle these positions, but that's only part of the story. Could Isaac Del Toro become UAE Team Emirates XRG's hidden weapon? By holding third place, Del Toro forces rival squads into a tactical trap. If teams like Decathlon CMA CGM or Movistar want to secure a podium spot, they must attack Del Toro directly. This dynamic shifts the defensive burden away from the yellow jersey. When opponents accelerate to reclaim third, they do the heavy lifting of chasing down moves, leaving Tadej Pogačar to conserve vital energy. The differing priorities of these mid-tier teams make this lower podium battle less predictable and far more explosive than the formulaic defense of yellow. On the steep ramps of Orsières Merlet, the desperate scramble for third place is poised to ignite the fireworks that the conservative frontrunners are trying so hard to avoid. What happens next could reshape the podium, because the fight for the white jersey operates on a completely different frequency than the battle for yellow. While the top 3 riders calculate their efforts to the watt, the young riders further down the standings have nothing to lose. Paul Seicher sits in 4th overall, wearing the white jersey but facing an unyielding chase from behind. The threat is not distant. Juan Ayuso of Movistar is lurking at 9 minutes and 22 seconds back, a margin that can easily vanish in a single Alpine crisis. Behind him, Matthias Schelmassou of Team Jumbo-Visma, Tom Pidcock and Lenny Martinez of Ineos Grenadiers form a highly volatile group. These riders are not bound by the defensive logic of UAE Team Emirates XRG. If Tom Pidcock or Lenny Martinez launches a long-range move on the lower slopes of the climb to Orcieres-Merlet, they force their direct rivals to chase. This young rider crossfire completely scrambles the team dynamics inside the peloton. Suddenly, teammates who should be protecting their general classification leaders are forced to chase down their own white jersey rivals, shifting the burden of work and destroying any pre-race agreements. When these young talents attack, they do not care about the defensive plans of the yellow jersey. They only care about the white jersey on their own backs. The road to Orcieres-Merlet serves as the opening move of a brutal Alpine trilogy. This 185-kilometer mountain test, packing nearly 4,000 meters of vertical gain, acts as a gateway to the high Alps. The climb to the finish line stretches for over 7 kilometers at a biting 6.7% average gradient, topping out at an altitude of 2,300 meters. But the real tactical drama of Stage 18 lies in what comes next. Once the peloton clears this summit, they face back-to-back mountain battles on stages 19 and 20, both culminating on the legendary slopes of Alpe d'Huez. Because of the massive physical load, the central landmark of Orcieres-Merlet is less about individual glory and more about systemic preservation. Rather than chasing a solitary stage victory, the main objective is leaving this high-altitude battleground with a support network intact. If Red Bull, BORA, Hansgrohe or UAE Team Emirates XRG burn through their mountain domestiques too early on these slopes, they will arrive at the foot of Alpe d'Huez completely exposed. The race is won by looking 3 days ahead, turning a single mountain peak into a chessboard of physical survival. Almost nobody is talking about this. A breakaway is highly likely on the road to Orcieres-Merlet simply because the general classification teams must decide who they are willing to spend. Chasing down a move on these slopes requires a massive physical toll, and any energy burned today is energy stolen from tomorrow. Physiologists know that recovering from a sustained mountain effort takes 48 hours. This means the choices made on Stage 18 dictate the tactical options available for the brutal doubleheader on Alpe d'Huez. If Red Bull, BORA, Hansgrohe is forced to pull early to keep a breakaway in check, Remco Evenepoel will find himself isolated when the road rises on stages 19 and 20. But if UAE Team Emirates XRG lets the gap grow, they preserve the climbing legs of their mountain train. Every helper used to pull back a move now is one less domestique available when the final showdown begins. The final mountain block is where the Tour is won or lost, and the team that manages this recovery window best will hold the upper hand in the high Alps. Do you think UAE's strategy is unbeatable, or can Remco Evenepoel force the race open before the Tour reaches Alpe d'Huez? Let us know in the comments. The road to Nice is rarely won by the loudest attacks, but by the quietest calculations. By choosing restraint on Stage 18, UAE Team Emirates XRG forces their rivals into a desperate, exhausting game. Do you think UAE's strategy is unbeatable? Or can Remco Evenepoel force the race open before the Tour reaches Alpe d'Huez? Let us know in the comments.